Oh, there he is.
There I am.
Hey, what's up, man?
It's a little hard to hear, but I'm doing my best here. For some reason, I can see you, but I can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all?
No, for some reason.
Are you on Wi-Fi?
I can't. I'm trying to figure this out.
Okay. Yeah, this is why, you know, you're in the business, so this is why you kind of try to work out a couple kinks before you get going.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
No problem. There's no rush on anything.
Okay. There.
I unplugged that.
Okay. I'll just have to keep the headphones on, so it worked out perfect.
Okay, great. Man, it is so good to see you. Thank you for taking out some time for me. You're looking good, man. You're looking good.
Thank you very much. No, I'm honored to be here. Let me begin by just saying thank you for allowing me to be here on your show. It's been a great pleasure. And of course, we've worked together before in Beautiful Poison. We'll just leave.
Yes.
We'll just let it go at that. We'll talk about that off the air. Take it. Yeah.
You know what? A lot of good came from that.
Yes, it certainly did.
Great.
It did. Absolutely. And that matters the most, right? And I think that's what I look for. So yeah, it worked out really good for me, and I'm forever grateful for that, because I learned a lot, and I met a lot of new and good people, and that helped me a great deal.
Oh, well, I learned a lot from you, our times talking. I love your voice. I wish I had that voice.
Rodney, every time people tell me that, I always tell them my mother said that, this voice was going to make me a lot of money or get me in a lot of trouble. And I have no comment on either.
I bet you did. I bet you did both in your younger years.
Too much stuff on the internet. I'm just over it.
Yeah,
we are talking about it.
We gonna stay on. We got a street we gonna stay on.
Yeah, that's right.
So what I do is I do a quick intro to let everybody know this is kind of like station identification.
Sure.
So and then lead into, because this will load up on my podcast as well.
Sure.
And I'll make sure you have a copy of all the footage.
I'm honored. As long as I'm here with you, my friend, it's like that matters to me more than anything else. So I'm good.
Well, man, I'm just glad that I'm looking at you. I see all your posts, and I'm like, man, he out there. All your posts is all ocean views. So I'll be like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just it's a sense of peace for me. I hadn't put any pictures up recently because I had been losing weight, and so I've lost about 30 pounds, and I feel good. I really do. Yeah. I just felt like, thank you, brother. Thank you. I just said during this particular part of our lives right now, nobody should look the same as what they used to, or be the same to some degree. So, I was just thinking that, it's more important now to find something that's going to make me a different or better person, or both. And I think that's kind of what I looked at. I just said, I need to start, making an impact in who I am, my life, what I've done, what I've changed, things like that. That's kind of what I've done.
Well, man, I tell everybody, this is actually a huge opportunity. It is frustrating what's taking place, but if you look at the opportunities, I'm like, always glass half full, and I'm like, these are opportunities to improve yourself. Most millionaires are made during, difficult times. And when you learn to press through adversity and become better.
You have to learn, you have to learn about, I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a plan B for me. Plan A will work always, because if there's a plan B, chances are you're going to take, plan B, because it's the easier of the two. So I never make a plan B. I always just say it's going to be plan A.
You just gave me so many chills up my back by saying that, because let me get this intro. I want to actually just start with that a little bit, because that's you hear that a lot. But let me go ahead. I got to put my glasses on because I'm getting ready to put a couple things.
You do that, I'll do the same thing. Then you put yours on, I'll put mine. Okay, we'll do the same.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's right.
Well, I want to thank you all for listening, for watching RDC Speak Life Sessions. My name is Rodney. I am the host and creator of this show. Make sure you like, subscribe, rate this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Castbox, Anchor. Today with me, I have an incredible guest. He is someone that I had the opportunity to work with you know, in my early years of moving out here to LA, and he is just an incredible person. I've watched his career, his testimony, which he shared with me quite often during that time when I was struggling with what I should be doing. He is an iconic R&B historian, distinctive radio host, motivational speaker, and philanthropist. And I'm gonna say actor, because, you know, he is an actor. He's an actor. He's an actor. He hails from that metropolis, Cincinnati, Ohio. But
long live the Reds and Bengals.
Oh boy, you just mentioned the Bengals.
I know. I thought maybe I throw him in just in case somebody saw it.
And we gotta give him some love.
We give him some love.
You and Gary Owen, y'all true to these Bengals, boy.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I told him that too. Yes, we are.
Yes. Without further ado, let me show some love. You all show love. Hand claps. Welcome our very special guest, my friend, Tyrone Dubose. He is getting ready to impart into you over the next 30, 45 minutes, and you are going to be encouraged. Thank you very much for being on the show.
I'm absolutely honored, Rodney. And once again, I you know, for me, these type of things are so important now. And, you know, when we get a chance to talk, speak freely, which is, you know, interviews are not something that I generally do, but I've made it a point now to be a little more accessible and remember that, you know, it's not always what we think. And so I think it's so important of getting out here and seeing. So it's kind of good for me.
Well, I think it's very good for you, and it's very good for me because I get a chance to get some more wisdom from you. So,
I appreciate that. No problem.
Yeah, prior to the intro for the interview, you were talking about not having a plan B and how important that's been for you in your career. I'd just like to jump right into that. You know, what gave you that mindset, you know, to really say, I'm not going to have a plan B through this whole journey?
Well, many times, a lot of us sometime will go around the corner to get across the street. And the going around the corner basically means you'll find some kind of way of getting across the street when you just simply just need to do it directly. And I know that in my lifetime, with the things in which I've done in the past, I've had so many issues in just being honest with me and knowing that if this is what I want, I need to just go directly there and do that. And I didn't do that in the past. And now I've just made it a point to just say, from this point forward, there's no more plan B's for me. It's just going to simply be plan A, because plan A is what I want. Because if you speak about plan B, then generally you're just going to go to plan B because it's the easier route to take. And so I don't want to take the easy routes of the things in which I do anymore. Now I've just made up my mind that I'm going to do all it takes to, you know, to make this happen.
And you know what? It's already happened. in my eyes, you know, God has opened up so many doors for you. But it's because you were committed. You were fully committed, and you're an R&B historian. Like, what gave you this love and passion for music? You know, it seems like you can sing a little bit too from your voice.
No, I can't sing. And I told LL Cool J a couple of weeks ago, well, he told me, Tyrone, you can't rap a present. So I just let it go. I just said, okay, cool, man. You know, dog be like that. So I just said, okay. But when I was a kid in Cincinnati, Ohio, of course, we listened to music then, but in the early 70s, there used to be this show on called American Top 40 with Casey Kasem, and that was, you know, someone in which I met later on in life. But, you know, as a kid, I would sit outside in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I would watch or listen to American Top 40 and where the countdown went, and, you know, he would tell stories about it, and it was a big deal, and it was I really enjoyed, you know, watching this countdown, or listening to this countdown, I should say, every weekend on WSAI in Cincinnati, and that was that's how I got started. You know, I said one day I kept saying I want to be like this guy. I like this guy. I like the way he talks about the charts and everything. And I kept saying I wanted to be him.
And you know what I love about this is that he was somebody that you really like watched, and you was like, this is my motto for what I want to walk into. And you said you met him later in life, and he ended up mentoring you a little bit. Am I correct?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. I was out one day. They had this radio thing for people that were in radio, and they had all these people that were there. And then one day I saw Casey Kasem was there, and he was on stage. He had this sweater on, and it said radio. And I went, oh my God, it's Casey Kasem. And I didn't have anything, Rodney. I was very poor. It was all I had left in my life. It's like I got to make this work. I'm going to meet, you know, my idol right here.
Yes.
And he said, so I went to the bathroom and fixed myself up, and then I walked out and I said, Mr. Kasem? And he said, call me Casey. And I went, no, sir, I'm not calling you that. No, sir. And he said, and so when I talked to him, I told him about this show that I wanted to do, and I can't quite remember what he said, but I said, that's okay, Mr. Kasem. I said, you're the reason I got into radio. I said, one day I'm going to be like you. And he said, I'll see you at the top, son. And then somebody that was with him gave me a card and said, send him the show, he'll listen. And 2 weeks later, he gave me a call and he said, didn't I tell you not to send me this? He said, this is Casey Kasem. He said, didn't I tell you not to send me that show, Tyrone? And oh my God, Rodney, it was painful. And I felt so like, oh my God, I was like, oh, my idol, he's going to be mad at me. And I said, Mr. Kasem, look, I'm really sorry. I think I was just overzealous. You're my idol. You're the reason I got into radio and stuff. Look, sir, I promise you, I won't bother you again. And the next thing out of his mouth, he said, now I got to show you how to do it right. He said, come over to my house. And so I went to his home, and it was the day, the dream of a lifetime for me. It's just something I'll never forget as long as I live. He showed me, how to speak in cadence, and when I was doing my show, and how to tell a story and things of that nature. And it was everything to me because I had nothing else. That was all that's all I had. And you know what it's like. I have to tell you, exactly what it's like when this is all we've got. We do everything in which we can to make things happen. And that's what I did.
Man, I just love that story. And it was just so encouraging when you first told me that. And I've never forgotten that because it was about shooting your shot. You was just like, you know what, man, I don't have anything to lose. This is it. I'm all in on this. So
when I tell you that I had nothing, I mean, literally nothing. I mean, I didn't even have enough gas to get to this event, but I got there because I knew that, he was going to be there. But you know what it's like. It's all about risk. It's all we have. I didn't know what I was going to get. I didn't know where it was going to come to. I just knew that I just had to say, I met the man that as a kid, I would sit on the steps, in Cincinnati, even in the wintertime, just to listen to the American Top 40 because it mattered, that much to me. I wanted to see it. So yeah, it was a big deal.
And hailing from Ohio, making this impact. That's what I love about it because we both Ohio boys,
Yes. Yeah. It's, I didn't think that this was all going to happen, Rodney. I mean, you understand what it's like when you hope that somehow or another you try to be noticed in a place where there's millions of people who have the same dreams that we do. And somehow or another, we just hope we're the one that somehow or another people look at or dream about and think that we're going to just get the chance of that we've desperately wanted all our lives. We say we want it, and it's being a public figure has been pretty cool for me, but it's, to be perfectly honest, it's been a bit of a struggle, and I'm trying to get a little better at it only because you have to be accessible. People want to be able to meet you. They want to see the same person. I'm generally the same person all the time, but I think I just have to remember that people want to see you, in a certain place all the time, and sometimes it's a bit difficult, but I'm getting better.
Well, I can just attest from my interactions with you that you have been incredible. You've been a mentor. You've always spoken life into me. I remember there were times when we were in the play together and I was just like, man, I'm like, I put $5 in the gas tank just to make it to rehearsal. So I know what you're talking about.
This was all we had. And I mean, people don't understand. It wasn't a lot of times about the money. A lot of times people always think money comes with expectations. But, a passion means that you'll give it your all without worrying about the money. There are many times that I've worked for many people that are major in this industry that didn't pay me at all, but I wasn't concerned about the money. It was the relationship and me trying to be better at what I was trying to do now, and that's what's gotten me here. I wasn't worried about the money. I was just worried about me somehow or another trying to get better at being a better person, a better place, somehow or another. The connection, learning to connect the dots. Many people try to connect the dots in front of you, but they're really behind you, because when you connect them behind you, then you know where you're going in front of you. And too many times we try to connect what's in front of us instead of what's behind us. And so I've learned that.
Somebody had a question for you also, because at times, like when our viewers are watching, and I think Kim, she says, were you an introvert?
Hey, Kim, no, to answer her question, no, Kim, I was not an introvert. I'm very, everybody who knows me, I'm very up and I'm laughing, I'm joking and everything. I think what has gotten me to this point now, and I was just mentioning this to somebody earlier today, I was saying that there are times when you lay down or when you think about stuff, you go, yeah, I can't believe I've done this, like this is like, oh my God, I'm making my dream come true. And yeah, all this. And then there are other times I go, what the WTF am I doing? Oh my God, is this real? Is this happening for me? How did this work? How did this all, how did I make this all happen? So for me, it's I've learned to stay supremely kind, and I'm always humble, and I'm grateful. People just don't know the struggles and the gratefulness, the thankfulness in which I've had, not just with Casey Kasem, but with Sheryl Underwood doing the Unsung episodes and everything else. It's been a dream come true for me, but one that I never gave up on, no matter what. And it doesn't matter whether you're, we want to be in television or radio, or whether you're a street sweeper, a shoe salesman, a garbage truck, whatever the case is, a dishwasher. The fact of the matter is that, nobody ever picks you because you're better. They pick you because you're different, and you have to remember that. And that's a lot of times people don't realize that the reason why you were chosen wasn't because you were better. It was because there was something different about you than the other 500 people who wanted to do the same thing you did.
Oh my goodness, I hope everybody's listening to that. That is an incredible nugget of wisdom, because that's some of the pressure that, as an actor or, in job interviews, you put that pressure on yourself. But that's why you're here, because I tell everybody, stop watching inspiring stories and become one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's who you are. That's who you are. And you just started talking about Sheryl Underwood, who's one of my favorite comedians. When you talk to her again, let her know she has a big fan who just loves her. She's hilarious.
She's another one that gave me a chance of a lifetime.
That's what I was going to say. She's one of your big breaks. Would you call that?
Yeah, she was definitely a big break. Years ago, my brother, AJ Jamal of In Living Color, was, he's a comedian, and he would be on tour, and he took me on tour with him. And I'd see Sheryl Underwood, and I remember years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago, she said, what are you doing being his flunky? I never told my brother, she said that to me.
Yeah.
I never told him that, but it sparked me to some degree. You always do be here with him. And this is something that I really had to learn. And so as time went on, the Unsung episodes were getting bigger, and my Showtime tracks was getting bigger. And so, I'm going out to these red carpets, and then you're a public figure, you're getting out to these events and stuff like that. And then one day I go to a red carpet event, and, my best friend is Ernest Thomas of What's Happening and Everybody Hates Chris. Yeah. So, and I remember him saying, so we went to this red carpet event, and she was there. And I remember sending information to her before, asking her, would she give me an opportunity to be on her show? And I never got an answer. So here we are at this red carpet. And I remember distinctly Ernest saying, you're going to have to go talk to her right now. And I said, look, I don't know really what I'm saying. And I remember Ernest's words says, your gift will make room for you. So you're going to have to make room for this right now, whatever it is that you want to do. So I walked over to her and I said, hi, Sheryl. And I was kind of stammering. She goes, I know who you are. And then she said, I see you on TV all the time. I said, I know you have a new radio, then she had only just a hundred or so. She was in 100 or so markets 3 years ago. Now she's the number one market person with 500 different affiliates all over the world. And now she's number one. And I remember saying to her, look, I just need an opportunity. If you perhaps can get me on your show, I can do something for you. And she said, well, what would you do? And I said, well, maybe I'll do a 60-second moment in music history for you. And I'll just do that. And she said, I'll get back to you. And, I thought, I didn't think any more of it. But sure enough, she did. And she said yes. And so she said, you can do whatever you want. R&B, country, hip hop, all this, whatever you want to do. And that's when she just had the one show and the one affiliate, the one Sheryl Underwood show. But then as time went on, the show got bigger. Now she's at 500 affiliates. But now she does this gospel thing called spiritual nourishment shows. She does the slow jam shows. And now she, they call it late night cupcaking for all of you that are in the 90s. That's what they meant. And she also does the house party. And so I do all of the musical content for her shows. But it was a struggle. I had to figure it all out. But, the answer was always going to be yes. no matter what it took. Even if that meant that I was going to be up all night long, I was going to make this work no matter what. So, a lot of times I, go to work, come home, write the stuff, write my shows, do all of this stuff, record it in my studio at home, and get it out on time. And the answer was always yes. I never said no to anything. And that's what got me here.
Man, you are dropping so many nuggets. I hope people are really paying attention. One, you took advantage of opportunities when they presented.
Yes.
You probably had some butterflies and stuff jumping, but you was like, man, I got to take the shot. Give me the ball. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the shot.
Right. I was always nervous. Yeah, I'm always nervous. People, think that we have it, that you're in here and that you think it's that you have it made.
Yeah.
We under a lot of pressure, to be on top and to, give the best that you can give people. And it's one of the hardest things to do, but people think it's easy. It's not easy by any means.
No, not at all. You still there? Can you hear me?
I'm getting this thing. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
It's popping back in. And
you are back.
Okay. There we go. For some reason, the computer doesn't want to.
That's all right.
The story of my life. It's this kind of stuff.
You know what? I know how to flow with anything, man. So I'm good. Yeah. I stay cool at all times.
Connected. We're connected now. Okay, there we go.
Cool
okay.
As a cucumber, man.
Yeah, I do too. I never, even when I'm bent out of shape or when things aren't right, whether I'm on television or radio, at some point I've learned that if I panic, they're going to panic. So don't panic, and that's the one thing I've learned. And that's helped me a great deal.
Maria actually had a question. Some of these questions I'm liking. She says, "Who is your favorite singer?" Now, I don't know if you want to answer that one with you being a host or all this stuff. You table that one. You say.
Yeah, Maria. Here's the deal. The thing is that in the 60s and the 70s, I have like decades. I'm doing a book right now called The Four Seasons of R&B that'll be coming out in the next couple of months. And it's based on my top 10 list of what I've picked of my all-time R&B artists in each decade. And the reason why I chose the decades of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, because before then, rock and roll was just coming in the picture with, soul and R&B music. And then after the 90s, it became digital. Things got a little different for us. So I picked those particular four. If I had to say one of my favorite groups, and it would always be the Stylistics. And one of the reasons why, because they're, it was my mother's favorite group when she was alive. And I used to love listening to them. And I got a chance to go on tour with them. So that worked out pretty cool. And our all-time favorite singers, I'm scared to say, but you'd be remiss. I mean, there's many of them, which would include Luther and I mean all of the all-time greats. And in each decade, I would say I've picked at least one in all of them.
See, now you got your answer. Thank you for that question. Now, next question. As far as like biggest influence on your career, you've talked about Casey Kasem, Sheryl Underwood, even your mother. Because I remember you shared with me. I see it in your eyes when you talk about your mom. So, who's the biggest influence on your career?
I'm trying not to get too emotional. I always, to some degree, as we get older and when we get to places, we learn to depend upon ourselves and try to figure out, we hang on to every little thing that we hope that somehow or another will get us to the next phase. And I can think of many instances when I was starting to do public access or I remember when I was dating somebody and she said, I see what you do. And she opened up the door and she said, you'll help everybody else get to the door. And she says, now walk toward the door. And as I walked toward the door, she slammed it in my face. And then she said, but you won't walk through the very door that you're helping everybody else get through. And that was a big come to Jesus moment for me, but people who helped me along the way, AJ Jamal, Kim Whitley, Sheryl Underwood, Casey. I mean, there's so many different people I can point to, even the drive to Barstow, California, I would go to work I would go to my regular job. Then I'd drive 150 miles to Barstow at the train station and be on the air from midnight to 6 for the minimum wage because I wanted to be in radio that bad. I was willing to do what it takes.
Man. You are just talking about, this is what people need to understand, the hunger, the passion. You said it wasn't about the money. It was the
No, it's not.
opportunity. The
No,
opportunity.
it's opportunity. And they may not come very often, and that was the problem. I didn't know whether this was, I was pretending. And
Yeah.
I remember I was working for Kim Whitley, and one of the things I never forgot, I remember that, I would go to all these red carpet events with her.
Yes.
And I remember like the red carpets would be full and the pictures would be taken, Rodney, and all of these people would be on the red carpet. But I was nobody. And so I was working for her then. And I remember everybody going into the event. And I hung outside.
Mm.
And I remember I asked someone to take a picture of me on the red carpet. And I took the picture. And I remember saying, I want to pretend I'm this guy that people are looking at.
Yes.
But I thought, no, I don't want to pretend. I want to be the guy that's on the red carpet that people want to know, they want to see.
Yes.
I never put the picture up, but it was my incentive. When I saw the picture, I remember saying I wanted to, one day I'm going to be on the red carpet and they're going to be taking pictures of me. They're going to see me on here for me. And, there's just little instances of things that happened that I remember that, were big influences on where I was in my life that were very important to me and got me here.
You just added another nugget about having vision. You envision where you wanted to be. And I think it's so important that we have that in our repertoire.
Yes,
You
indeed.
have the vision for it, or it's not
Yes.
just come to pass. I wanted to ask you, as far as like you've had so much success and doors open for you, and people have reached back and helped you. Have you had opportunities to mentor others who are looking to get into your industry?
Look, it is absolutely essential. One of the things I've learned from many actors, actresses, radio personalities, movie stars and everything. But what I've really watched is how they help others. And that's the key for me, because in my mind, this can all be gone in a day. So I don't pretend as though somehow or another, like I've got all the answers. So anytime anyone has ever asked me anything, the answer has always been yes. Yes, I can help you here. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I've always said yes to everybody, because I believe by saying yes, I'm giving to someone, and that matters to me. And, the fact of the matter is I got my life back, after I had cancer. And so that told me, for in my mind, I said, now that I've got my life back, this second chance at life, I get to give second chances to other people. And so that's why, that matters to me.
That is such a powerful thing. Like when you were talking about the struggle that you had, and then going through cancer, which, I didn't put it down as a question, but if you want to talk about that a little bit, because Tyrone,
yeah, sure.
This is what I love about you, man, because people need to feel that, because you and I, we talk to so many people back east, and they don't fully understand what you have to go through out here in California. It's a beast. It's a totally different thing to build your career in LA than build it in Ohio. So
yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, one of my inspirations as a kid was Rocky, and one of the reasons why, I was 17 years old when I saw the first Rocky movie, and I remember going with somebody there, and I remember her saying, "Oh my God, he's getting beat up so bad." But I remember so well saying, "But he's not quitting. He didn't quit," and I had just quit high school. I remember that.
Yes.
And then I went through my struggles of trying to figure out my life, of where I was trying to be, what I was trying to do. And I remember that when the Rocky Balboa movie came out, his son was on there with him. And his son said, and I remember the part where his son told him, living with you has not been easy. Now you're trying to fight right now. And he says, doesn't it ever bother you that, people are looking at you as a joke, and I'm going to be included in that? And I remember Rocky saying to his son, that somehow or another you had it all good, but somehow or another you changed. You stopped being you, that you let people stick a finger in your face and tell you that you were no good. But the part that I really heard about that was when Rocky said, let me tell you that the world's not all it was a very mean and nasty place. It'll beat you to your knees if you let it. But it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take, and keep moving forward. He said, that's how winning is done. He said, if you know what you're worth, you got to go out and get what you're worth. You just got to be willing to take the hits. And I remembered that. And that was big for me then, because I thought that was part of my problem, because I'm stuck and mired in this part of my life where I wasn't sure where I was headed. And I see that Rodney Perry joined us, one of my dearest friends as well. And I love him dearly. Yeah, I love Rodney. He's one of my dearest friends. He's always been kind to me, and my brother AJ. And so that was a big turning point for me, because then I realized, okay, I wasn't a good dad, and I didn't have my life together, but somehow or another, I got to stop giving myself a life sentence. I got to be okay. It's time for me somehow or another to move, or find a place or a way to move forward. And that's how it worked for me. So all these things are beginning to happen to me. And then I discovered that I had cancer. And it was, I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't have any reason to believe that, there was something wrong with me at that moment. But I distinctly recall saying, whether the doctor said, I said, but I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything. I don't understand. And then he stuck up his hands and he did this. And I said, I don't understand what that means, sir. You may have 6 years, you may have 6 months. We have to operate now. You have to have surgery now. And I remember, and now isn't, Rodney, right away. It's 30 days. So I'm walking around in my life thinking this may be the very last time that I see some of these people, and not know whether I'm going to live. I just didn't know. And it was.
Take your time, hey man, take your time, because you and I have had this conversation when we had to play together in the past, and man, this is what makes people fall in love with you, though.
Yeah. So
you real.
Yeah. I said, if I get my life back, I'll be a better dad. I'll be a better person. Not that I wasn't then, but I was like, I'm gonna be twice as better. I'll do better things. I'll get things in order, and I'll make my dreams come true. I'm gonna do everything. I was like, I'm just gonna make it. I'm just gonna make it work.
Yes.
And so, when you get a second chance at life, when you fought for your life, you no longer fight to keep people around you, and you don't fight people anymore. You just somehow or another, you just recognize that this is everything to you. And I just realized I never took anything for granted now. And I realized that this, I got 1,440 minutes in a day. So I got to maximize my time every day, all day, every day. That's it. I'm just chasing this like I'm catching the last bus at night. That's how I look at it.
Woo. Catching that last bus at night. That's some desperation too. Because if you don't hit that bus, you're going to get a long walk.
Yeah. And, but you know what it's like, Rodney, when you've got nothing.
Yes.
When you have nothing or no one, you don't know what to do. And you don't know if it's going to affect you in any way. And, so I started getting the voiceovers, and, the voiceover thing started working out well for me. Getting the opportunity to do the Ross commercials has helped a great deal, because that worked out really cool. And of course, doing all the other television shows and commercials, that's helped. So yeah, it's been pretty good.
Now, you had your own show, which you started before you transitioned and started doing Unsung. Can you kind of share how that happened? Because that's once you built your own platform, and that platform, once again, your gift made room for you to go to another level. So when I was driving,
I drove 142 miles every other weekend to Barstow. And so I would go to my regular job, get there at 6 a.m., get off at 4 p.m., drive 4 freeways to get to Barstow, sleep under a tree, change my clothes in the bathroom at the Barstow station, then be on the air from midnight to 6. Wow. And so at midnight to 6, it was live music, but I kind of felt like I needed to build something for me. What am I doing for me? This is their thing, but I've always wanted to do my own show. So you're sitting there, people think you're just listening to music. So for me, I use that as my plan for what I wanted to do for me. And by trial and error, I remember that I was at this lady's house, and I was talking to her, and I was telling her about the charts and stuff like that. And she said, what a nerd. She says, you ought to go buy a book. And so she gave me a card. Her name is
Uh-huh.
Monique. She gave me a gift card to go to Barnes and Nobles 10 years ago. And I bought the Billboard chart book and I went, wow. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do a book based on the top. I'm going to do a radio show based on the top R&B songs in history and where they peaked at on their peak position, and then do a little information about the show. And so I started off small, and now I'm in, over 40 to 50 markets now all over. And, I'm number one in Las Vegas. I'm number one in New York. I'm, my show in its time slot. So life is going really good, but it's only because, I was willing to do what everybody else wasn't. I was willing to say yes. And that's how we get here.
Yes. If you want a life that's different from other people, you have to be willing to do different than what everybody else
Right.
is doing.
Absolutely. That's what I say. If you want to want what he wants, you have to do what he does. And that's how I look at it. And that's how I got here. I'm doing what others won't do. And I've learned that now. And that's how I've gotten to this life of mine now. That's how I got here.
When you're talking about your bout with cancer, it made me think about my mantra, and I share with everyone, and it's leave on E. And I want to leave this world completely empty of every God-given gift I have. And I'm not going to make the cemetery rich off of my dreams that God has given me and desires. So do you have a mantra that, you kind of built around everything that you've been through?
In my mind, as I mentioned earlier, there's 1,000. The 9 to 5 pays the bills. The 6 to 10 builds the empire. That's how I look. And so for me, there's 1,440 minutes in a day. So the question I usually ask people, how much time have you spent on your dream? And you can't just say, I'm just trying to be relevant. You've got to be reinventing. When you say you're relevant, that means that somehow or another, you want people to remember who you are, what you do. But if you're reinventing yourself, you make the time to try to figure out what it is that you're going to be doing that's different than everybody else. And that's what I've learned to do.
Man, do you know how encouraged I feel right now? Because I'm telling you, I'm smiling because when COVID hit back early March, I was having a whole bunch of nice network TV auditions. I'm like, oh, it's getting ready to happen. And then everything got shut down. So I was like, okay, let me reinvent myself. I was like, I'm good as a host. I know how to talk to people. So I just started doing this podcast and just building this platform. So what you said just gave me confirmation for myself.
Right. Your job, everybody's job is to be something and do something different. And that's what I did. Even though I'm doing the Unsung episodes, I've got something major that's coming up in the next few weeks that but all of that behind, I said, okay, let me make my pitch letter. Let me do my promo. Let me get these things in order so I can get to the next phase, because, we don't know what the new normal is going to be after some time. So at this point in my life, I definitely and desperately needed to find some way to be different. I don't want to be that guy that's constantly throwing up some throwback Thursday pictures and all that stupid. I'm not doing all that. I don't have anything to throw back to. I'm going to give you everything going this way. That's what I'm doing. So I don't do the throwback pictures. There's nothing to show you in the past. I need to show you what's going on here in the future. So I don't do any throwback pictures.
I love it. With COVID going on, music is a healer. Can you just help us to really, what's your perspective on that? How we can use music and to really just help us to really get through this time, because it's, bubbling back up again. We don't know how many times we're going to cycle through these continuous outbreaks. So.
The amazing thing about music is that you can find any song that will soothe you to some degree. It will tell you, music is not just about the song in itself. It's about the emotions in which you feel when you hear it. Whether it's a love song, whether it's, a rap song, whether it's whatever it is, the music will somehow or another get you to the place that you need to be. And it will tell you the story about your life. Your music is your life. And, if you tell me the top 10 songs of every person that you've spoken to, they're telling you a story about their life. And that's one of the things in which, and for our life right now, it does the same exact thing. But you need to be able to find a way to reinvent the life in which you're living right now, because you don't know what life you'll be living in the future. So whatever it is in which you're doing right now, if you're held up at home, then continue to be held up at home with some kind of a dream, a plan. What's the plan? Get me to where you need to be. What are you trying to do? And that's been the key for me.
Man, before I go to my next question, I'm not going to have you address this question live, but Queen Janae just put a question out there, and it starts with hello. So if you want to take a look at that real quick, you can address that later.
Hi, Queen.
Yeah.
I don't see the question, but can you see it? And you can tell me what it is, and I'm more than happy to.
Basically, I need to know how to connect with you during these times. I didn't get a chance to connect with you last summer. Can we get back to that? Can we connect? Because I think she wanted to
man.
She wanted to be mentored by you. So
heck yeah, man. I can do that for you. You can go to my website. It's rmbhistorian.com. And just leave me a message on there, and I will get back to you. I'm one of those kind of guys that's kind of just like learning this stuff. It's kind of cool. You know, I didn't really like doing that stuff, but now, Rodney, I'm getting kind of good at this. So she leaves me a message. Janae, just leave me a message on rmbhistorian.com, and I will get back to you. That's a promise.
Well, my next question is, I know you've had opportunities to talk to so many people in the industry. Who would you say was your most memorable, I don't like to say best or worst, but your most memorable meeting or unsung that you had to do?
There's two that always stick out to me. I've done 27 of these over the last 8 years, but the two that always stick out to me is High Five. High Fives was really good, and the reason why that stuck out is because this group had it all. And I remember saying a group that for years was at the top of the world now went to the bottom of the heap. I remember saying that. Yeah. But part of it was some self-inflicted, some just bad luck, some of it just bad timing, but ultimately in the end, but they never stopped persevering. Yeah. The other one that always stuck out to me that I really had the hardest time with and was really scared to speak its truth was Martha Wash, the one that was on 2 Tons of Fun. And then, she did Everybody Dance. She did 3 #1 singles, and she didn't get credit for any of them. They had all taken these from her. And, she had 3 #1s and never got credit for them. But what happened is like when you see all the video of Everybody Dance now, you see this lady dancing, but that lady's not singing the song. It was Martha Wash. And I remember saying on television, well, let's just be honest. The whole purpose of them not putting Martha Wash on there is because she was heavyset and it just didn't fit their image. And I was scared to say it, Rodney, but I knew that it had to be said. And I thought that, like, oh my God, like I remember before I did that show, I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to see that. But you know what? She didn't, to her credit, she knew.
Yes. She knew.
And so all I spoke was just the truth, and it made it so much easier. And it made it easier for me. But I do know that when you do these unsung episodes, what I want to believe makes me different is that I really don't want to talk about the worst of them. These are people's, memories. These are people's fathers, mothers, and family, friends, loved ones. The last thing I want to do, even when I'm doing my Timeless Tracks, when I do my radio show, there's a lot that I won't say to people about the bad. I really try my hardest not to say anything bad. I really try hard not to, because they don't need that. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy. I don't need to shock anybody into it. I recall there was a station that asked me to do a television show for them where they wanted to speak about the bad of some major groups. And I said, I just wouldn't do it. Yeah. I don't need to make my success off the back of people, who have done things that aren't good. So I didn't want to do it.
I'm with you on that, because I definitely am a firm believer in speaking life and not bringing up people's trauma, because because I don't think it's right, like you, and then 2, I don't want it to happen to me.
Yeah, all TV isn't good TV. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not all good TV. Yeah, so I get it, and that's what I've learned, not to always have something bad to say about somebody. I don't want to put that kind of karma out in the air. I really want it to be good karma for people, and that's kind of how I live.
I love that. I do, like we talked about everything that's happened in your career and how you've grown, like you went up the ladder with your faith and everything. Now, we all, as we're growing and we're building and we're making our dish, our meal that we serve into the world, we make some mistakes every once in a while. We break some eggs. So what would you say is one of the biggest eggs that you broke while you're making your omelet for the world?
I think the one thing that broke me that I always think about was having someone tell me that I just wasn't going to amount or be anything. It broke me because I didn't really believe it, but when you're around that negativity all the time, it was starting to get to me at some point. And I remember the song Lose Yourself by Eminem had came out. And I remember the part where he was like, so here it goes, here's my shot. I would play that part all the time because this is the only opportunity I got. It's like, this is it for me. It's like, I don't have anything else. I don't have nothing. It's like, if I'm gonna make this work, this is all I've got. And so I've been broken many times, but not broken to pieces to where I would not, allow myself to, be put in a position of being hurt. So I'm going to do everything in which, I can to try to make life easy for me. And I've done that, and I'm trying to do that now. That's what I've been trying to do. And even down, even here as I, am out here in San Diego, doing the same things. We do what we have to do. We just do what we have to do. And then if you don't do that, then you're not going to make things work. And I've learned I had to make things work, even in, this environment, no matter what. Even taking the chance of, even doing this while I'm at, working. I have to do what I have to do,
Man, you made my day by saying you'll be available today, because I appreciate you. And I appreciate everything that you shared and imparted to me, because part of our conversations is what gave me so much more drive. And that's the reason why my career has started to go up. So I'm very grateful, because you're one of the people that I can thank.
Well, that first of all, let me just say to you, I thank you so very much for you've always been kind to me. This whole thing as being a public figure people think somehow or another you've got it all figured out. But the truth is, you never really have it figured out. You just think you have it figured out until something happens to some degree. And I've learned now more than ever to try to find some kind of way to make this work for me now, because it either works now or it's just never going to work. Even if I'm in pain, even if I have nothing, even if it's, whatever the case, I just have to make this work. It's all I've got. Well, and you understand, because we've had these conversations, and you understand,
But you're living in your purpose. So you're living such a full life. And that's what I encourage people to do. I was like, if you do work a 9 to 5 and you love that job, don't feel envious of somebody else. Just enjoy the job. Everybody's not meant to do this and that, but find your purpose and flourish in it, and just enjoy your life. Be content. And that's what I try to encourage people to do. Quit looking at other people's life and thinking that's, that makes you feel bad because they're at a certain level and you're not. Everybody has
one of the things that I always tell people all the time when they ask me, I always tell them nothing works without a plan. Everything in which you've done in life has all come based on something in which you planned. I don't care if it's that you plan to take out the garbage, but you made it a plan to make it, to make it happen. Yeah. So all of my success has come from me sitting down in my office, figuring out what's the plan. Then once I have the plan, then I know what to do. But people can't follow someone if you're not exactly sure where you're headed, and that's the part where people don't quite understand. Nothing's going to happen to you or for you unless you've got a plan. Plan your work your plan. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck. And, and I don't want to be that guy I didn't want to be the guy swimming around trying to figure out where am I headed? What am I doing? And now, they've got these 10 avenues. I recall years ago when I first started, this guy asked me, he says, Tyrone, what do you do? And I said, I do radio, I do voiceovers, I do this. But then he said, but what do you do? And I remember him saying that, and I didn't have an answer for him. And he looked me right in my face and he said, you don't know what you want. He said, but the next time somebody asks you that question, you better have an answer. And I remember, Rodney, I could not sleep for days because I knew this guy was right. I knew it. Yes. I knew he was right. And so at that point I said, I needed to make a decision. And I was doing the pop charts because I knew the pop charts really well.
Yes.
But I did not know the R&B charts well. And so I needed to make a decision about whether I wanted to do the R&B charts or whether to do the pop charts. And at the last second, I said, I'm gonna do the R&B charts. I said, and because I felt like that will, one, sustain a sense of history, and I can, I can learn, more history about it. But
Yes.
it's actually the one thing that's gotten me to the next phase of my life. It's like, okay, I found that. So
Yeah.
now that I found that as being my mantra of me wanting to make this happen, now I've got different places now that I'm able to go where I wasn't in the past. I wasn't sure where I was headed. If you had asked me this, 10 years ago, I could tell you that, like all of us, we kind of fake, or we act like we wannabes, or we feel like we kind of think we know, but
Yes.
I was just really just kind of scratching, just trying to figure out where to go or what to do. And sometimes, like I tell people all the time, and I say this as advice to everybody, sometimes your ego will have you screaming behind a closed door that has nothing behind it.
Whoa.
And I've learned that, and I don't want that anymore for myself. So I learned that I'm just going to need to be different. I'm going to have to find something better or different about myself that's going to be different than anyone else. And different has always gotten me where I need to be.
Me and you both, and I hate this because we got like 5 minutes left, and this has been such an incredible talk. But I got to get some fun questions out too. I got to make you smile
Okay.
now too.
Make me smile.
You gonna have me like Tito. I'm looking for Tito to bring my tissues, and Tito's not. And I'm starting to get a little teary-eyed too. So, fun question number 1: if you were the leader of an R&B group, since that is your expertise, what would be the name of the group, and what would be the title song on the debut album?
If I had, Rodney, if I was the name of the group, I would be the Smooth Sailors, because my music would be all smooth, and I think that I would do well with that. The title of the first song, yeah, y'all gonna have to email me about that.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna let you slide on that too. That's cool. But one day when we sitting out at lunch or something,
Yes, I'll tell you then.
Yeah, I'll get the name from you. I'll get it from you. Next question: if you were the owner of a record label, what would be the name of that record label?
Now, see, that would be really easy for me, because
Okay.
the one thing, as a kid in Cincinnati, one of the things that we had, my grandmother used to have on the porch, were wind chimes. And I remember that these wind chimes, even around my home, I have wind chimes there, and I would call it Wind Chimes Productions, or Wind Chimes Records. And the reason why is because I remember as a kid, I'd be in the cul-de-sac where I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I could hear the wind chimes in the breeze. But wind chimes has always brought me a sense of peace. And I remember that, I remember with my grandmother, something that I've tried to learn in my life. I remember telling her, I lived with her, you and Grandpa never fight. And she says, what are you talking about? We fight all the time. I said, but I'm here. And she said, we don't fight in the house. We take walks outside, because my home is a home of peace. And I usually try to, and I remembered that. And so I usually try to do that in my life now, because I haven't lived easy by any means. My life is, I'm always honest, it's been a mess. I've never always had it together. I haven't had it easy by no means, but for the rest of my life, I've done my best in trying to make it better.
You know what I love about being a beautiful mess, though, is that, I'm a man of faith, and I tell everybody, God has taken on my mess and created an incredible portrait that now reflects my life. So it's really, everyone is a mess, and if they say they're not, they're lying.
Yes. Anybody who tells you that they're not is not being honest with themselves. And so that's one of the things in which I've learned. I think that was the hardest thing for me, Rodney, if I could just be honest. I think it was hard for me to be honest with me. That was the hardest lesson I think I've ever learned, because that requires you of being able to figure out your direction, your purpose. And in order to do that, you needed to be real with yourself. And that was one of the hardest things it was for me to do. But I think once I got there, it was the beginning of the end of the problem. And that's what I tell people all the time. The beginning of the end of your problem is usually when you can admit that there's a problem that you've created to begin with.
Owning it. You know what?
Yeah.
That leads me to, I always have my guests give like 30 seconds of wisdom before I close this out. So you've been dropping wisdom the whole hour, but give us a little bit more to chew on. You know how you got something to marinate on? You know, the juices, you want that juice to stay in your mouth. The clock is ticking, so we got 30 seconds. I need some juice to marinate on.
Okay. Two things that are most important to most people. The access to the energy of the life that you live needs to be a privilege. If anybody that you've given access to is a part of your life, and it needs to be something that's got to be good for you. Number two, never give yourself a life sentence. A life sentence, it means that you've basically given up on your life. It's entitled for you to make mistakes. You can do all of those things. Remember that your 9 to 5 is always, pays the bills, but your 6 to 10 builds the empire. And that's what you're trying to build. And with 1,440 minutes in a day, you need to be able to tell people how many minutes have you spent on your dream. And if you spend an hour on your dream every single day, that's almost 30 or 31 hours a month that you're getting to the top. And, remember, never take the elevator to life, take the steps. The steps will allow you to move. Elevator just gives you an up and down.
Woo! You know what? Thank you so much for all the knowledge, for the time. When this COVID stuff lightens up and we can get back out, I owe you a very good lunch. So we meet up.
We'll go to Tito's Tacos. We'll go to Tito's.
We're going to Tito's.
We'll go to Tito's. We'll go to Tito's. We like Tito's. And to all of you who asked questions and said things, thank you very, very much. I'm really honored. The one thing that I've learned in this grateful time that I'm doing is to stay humble, stay kind to people, be a giver, don't take from people. And that's the one thing that I believe that's made me different. It's the one reason why I believe I've been a success. I'm more than grateful and honored that people think enough to believe that I'm someone that they aspire and want to be like. It's kind of hard for me to believe, but it's an absolute honor. And I really, 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 really mean
2 seconds.
Bye.
Remember to love God, love people.